What is up, YouTube? My name is David Lee, and you're watching Asian with Cars. And I wanted to give you guys some insight from the NAWCQ, or as what I know it as, the North American Nationals. Wanted to give some insight more specifically on the Edison Format, or April 2010 Yu-Gi-Oh! Ultimate Time Wizard tournament that happened over this weekend. Some things fantastic. I unfortunately washed out in the tournament, but the day before I actually went into a 64-man tournament for I guess a Dark Magician statue. I don't even really know if anyone really cared about it except like one dude. But aside from that, I enjoyed it. In the 64-man tournament, I somehow made it in the top 8. Don't know how. I honestly am very terrible at playing in super high competitive level tournaments, but I guess, you know, a lot of the skill set that I still have from playing way back in the day, back in 2009, 2010 with, you know, a Blackwing deck might say otherwise. So I also wanted to do a deck profile on my deck, just at least I show you guys. If you guys have actually seen my friend Playtest IRL, you've seen his content with me getting a deck profile on it. It's pretty much the same deck, except with differences on the sides. And the reason why I did this is because I was in anticipation for a very common deck that was going to be actually in the Ultimate Time Wizard tournament, which was actually E-Hero. So I had a lot of concerns about E-Hero, as well with my friend Keegan. He had a lot of concerns leading up to the tournament that Stratos was going to really break open the tourney. Not really, but Absolute Zero is one of the problems that I have against the deck. E-Hero tends to have a lot of attrition, so I can't really out attrition him without having to sacrifice a lot of control on my side to actually stop E-Hero in his tracks. So for me to do that, I had to do some side stuff. We'll get into that in a bit. So to talk about Nationals, the event was great. To a degree, I had a little bit of complaints about the judges. Some judges are actually having issues with some judge calls, and I wanted to actually specifically talk about this. And I think there's some people that would talk about like the Goblin Zombie versus with Brionic Dragon Eye Spirit and Priority. I'm unsure of that, so someone in the comments, please leave that in the comment section down below, so that way we can actually talk about it. But another one that I want to talk about is that there was a discrepancy with Sirocco the Dawn, and I found that appalling because and I actually found 2 erratas that were actually what I would call bad erratas, and also not the original errata for Sirocco the Dawn from Crimson Crisis. There was no reprint for Sirocco the Dawn with an updated errata that had this. But long story short, the judges, for some reason, said that the boost effect of Sirocco the Dawn would actually stay permanent. So in other words, when you use Sirocco's effect to either target itself or boost Bora, whichever, the attack gained on it stays in effect until, you know, something changes, like saying so Book of Moon resetting the attack and all that, or resetting the attack and defense difference, or boost, excuse me. So that is wrong. I was very aggravated about that when I heard about it, because that was probably the most easiest judge call or judge ruling that you could have made, and 2 judges agreed that Sirocco the Dawn does not gain or the boost does not stay till the end phase. That's what they decided. I don't know why, and I think that has to do with the fact that they looked at possibly, and we're unsure of this, a Turbo Pack or Gold Series, which I don't really know anyone that's running the Gold Series Sirocco, but I definitely do see that people are using the Turbo Pack Sirocco, the Super Sirocco, which is the first holo Sirocco that was ever produced for that print, that the Sirocco that I saw does not have until the end phase. So if I pull up over here the Sirocco I have, I'm using the BLCR Sirocco, and somewhere over here, I want to say it is once returned to your end phase, and it will say until the end of the turn it gains the attack. Well, somehow I saw it in the Gold Series and the Turbo Pack reprints, which are not part of the original text of Sirocco the Dawn from Crimson Crisis. It somehow omitted the until the end phase, which is very odd. I don't know how Konami missed this, but in the end of it, I think what happened is that the judges may have looked at Sirocco the Dawn and read it per the text, and it doesn't say that. So that's how it was concluded, I think. I'm unsure about it, but I've heard the reports, and there was 2 people that were talking about it to me about it, which is very odd. So long story short, those are the couple judge calls that were pretty bad that I heard of. There was also some really awkward ones, and I do want to give props to Brian and some of the people out there from Konami and the people that are judging for the tournament. They also had to deal with a very, very terrible Gravekeeper burn guy. And the only way this person could actually top or actually get into top 64 is to cheese his way into the tournament. And there's many people that can vouch for this. There's a person, I forget his name, starts with an A, but he was a frog player in round 6, and he had to face against this Gravekeeper burn guy. And the way he was playing, he was very aggressive. He would always try and make the player, like he would try and talk the player into making mistakes, like saying, "Can I go, hurry up," some of those type of things. And the person can talk about that. I want to say his name's Alti. I might be wrong on that name, but long story short, the Gravekeeper burn guy was very aggressive, and I want to give props to the judges for actually observing and actually taking care of the situation with that match, because I watched that match towards the end, and all you can see is just this dude was trying to do anything he can to try and fish a win. Another thing to also mention, he also tried to do something stupid, like if you try to roll a dice and you accidentally roll it by accident, and ironically enough, it rolled on a 1. So what I'm trying to get at is that the person, the Gravekeeper burn guy, I'm not going to mention names, but he tried to say that, that was a mistake because of, somehow he dropped it by accident. I really don't know because I didn't see the situation, but there were many people that could vouch for that. There was a lot of reports on the players that would mention about that the dice roll guy being the Gravekeeper burn guy, which is pretty ironic. And then you had some of the judges that heard through the grapevine about that guy too, which they weren't even part of the tournament. And I say part of the tournament as in judging for the tournament. So it's crazy. And I give props to the judges for what they were doing and having to deal with. I also want to give a shout out to Steven, one of the judges out there. He's been actually helping keep the side event series flowing as much as he can within reason. There's only so much that these judges can do with what they have, and I do want to give props to him as he's been really pushing the envelope and just trying to keep all the corralling going and making sure that some of the events go. This time around, he wasn't actually running it, but he was taking care of judging. But in the past, he's been doing that. So I also want to mention that Konami actually improved themselves, or the judges actually improved themselves from day 1, day 2 into day 3 for the side event pods, where in the April 2010 pods, what they would do is originally what they would do is they would have meeting point green, blue, and red. Well, they omitted that on Sunday and found a even better method of just making the calls. Instead of having to go on the intercom and actually barely hear your call for your pods, that was a problem on Saturday and Friday for day 1 or day 2. And what would happen is that if you missed it, you just don't get into your flight, and you most likely either get a game loss or a match loss the minute you find out where you're at. And if you get a match loss, being the fact that it's a single elimination tournament, you just don't get it. But the good news is that you still get your packs. That's the whole. Or you're paying for essentially packs with a free entry into your tournament. So good on that for the judges to actually find a way to actually fix some of the complaints that I've been. We've all had concerns about, especially with the intercom issues, because everyone's loud and you have speakers that are almost not on par with the level of the environment when it came to the volume of people. But I definitely want to give props to them for actually trying to find a solution to the problem and seemingly make it more improved and a lot more seamless based on what I've observed. I also want to give a shout out to Fraser Smith and A True Hero, Cairo, A True Hero. Those two guys have been pushing E-Hero in the finals. And I also want to give a shout out to Nick, the Amaryllis Burn guy. So Nick and I met at Nationals, and we had a fun time just talking. just talking about the Amaryllis Burn deck, because this deck was not on my radar, and just watching him play, and he knows who I was, and I was just rooting for the dude. He, in my opinion, was the underdog of the tournament, leading into top 8. Also want to give a shout out to Dan 10FD, really good guy. He plays Value Turbo. He got domed by me in the 64-man tournament, and I was proud of that. But he's a good guy, and I appreciate his opinion on Value Turbo and just trying to push the envelope. A lot of the Value Turbo players have actually been using his footprint of the deck in some shape or form, of him pushing the envelope to actually run it in their own iteration. And one of the guys that won, I want to say his name is Mark or Matt, I can't remember, won the Nationals with a Value Turbo deck. And I want to say there was another Value Turbo deck, which was Dan Evolution, not Dan 10FD, Dan Evolution. He was one of the guys that was in top 8, and I want to say he lost to a True Hero in the top 8. And he put up a really good fight. By the way, he also has a very maxed out rarity deck. Check out the video if you haven't. But I would also say, the guys that were in top 8, very friendly people, very good. Everyone knew each other in there. So yeah, it was a great top 8 watching it, and I was relaying a lot of the stuff over there. I also want to give a shout out to my friend Keegan. He had a very, very terrible month in the last 2 weeks. So I will personally say, my heart goes out to him and what he's been dealing with. For me, I've been dealing with a lot of personal family problems with my dad and having to take care of my dad, and I had to train my dad to make sure that if I can, as long as I can walk away and make sure that he can actually, get on the treadmill, walk around the house, and all that. It's been a crazy endeavor in the last month for me, and Keegan's just still in the grieving process and recovery process from everything, and he wanted to make sure to come out, and I give him a lot of props for what he's having to go through and still come out to these tournaments and help represent the Edison community, because without him, I would personally say without him, we really wouldn't be where we are with the Edison April 2010 community. So Keegan, my heart goes out to you with what you're dealing with, and give me a call if you need help in the future. I helped judge Keegan with a lot of his RBETs along with Engel, and Keegan is just dealing with a lot of stuff, and so I just try and help him out because there's a lot of things behind the scenes in the RBET series. He's taking care of the stream, and me and Engel are having to take care of it. But I didn't know this whole time, even in the last 2 weeks, that he had to deal with a death in the family. I think he leaded to me, about the fact that he was dealing with some family problems, but I didn't think it was this grave. And again, Keegan, if you have any problems, give me a text or give me a call, and I'm always open ears for you. So. Let's talk about the deck profile. So, I play Blackwings. I used to be top 10 in the world with Blackwings back in at the age of 15 in 2010 Yu-Gi-Oh. Actually, from 2009 to 2010, I used Blackwings the whole time. So I am very proficient in Blackwings. I think that some people would like to say that Blackwings is the most uncreative deck. You could be right, you could be wrong, but I would personally say that. Being the fact that I played this deck for more than 10 years, more than a decade, and I know the ins and outs, there are still things that are yet to be discovered. And a true hero, Cairo, has actually been recommending me some suggestions to try, and once I tried it out, and I'll show it to you in a bit, of the changes I did with the deck after, but I want to show you what I did with this in the top 64 and in the Nationals. So let's start with that, and then we'll talk about what was Cairo's suggestion. So starting off, you got to have the MVP. We have Shura the Blue Flame. Kalut, always got to have Shura and Kalut together, otherwise you are leaving yourself wide open for problems. We also have Bora. I'm starting to believe that, I'm actually having a reversal of what I used to do. I used to run just 2 Shuras, and then I now am looking at switching it to, instead of having 2 Shuras, but have 2 Boras instead. And it's kind of an odd choice, but Bora's great, but also at the same time, having to see 2 Boras in the same hand, I just do not like it. And so this is where I can actually get away from having a 41 card deck and getting into a 40 card deck, omitting the Bora. So there's that. So getting into tuners, let's talk about 3 Blizzard, 1 Gale, and then 3 values. Now, here's the thing. Running the blizzards, in my opinion, are some of the greatest things to have, especially if you have value in hand. And so the way I like to run it is I'd like to have, you know, a level 4 blizzard, black whirlwind, get the value search, and there's my draw engine for there. So I really didn't lose anything off of that, and now I can ditch it off with Brio, especially if I have these 3 cards, which are Sirocco's. So running Sirocco, I really don't summon Sirocco that much. If I do, it's mainly because it's Whirlwind plus Sirocco, but that's the only time, and I hate doing it that much because I'd rather have Dark Refer over here. So I only run 2 Dark Refers, and the reason why is the same reason as what I said before. I hate seeing 2 Boras in hand, and I see Dark Refer quite often at 3. And I used to run Rhoda, and I would run Rhoda with 3 Greffers, and I hated it. So I'm actually looking at other stuff. My friend Gabe from Las Vegas, Keegan's friend, what is his name? Monster Gamer? I think is his username, Monster Hunter, Monster Gamer. He had a very, very interesting choice for a setup, which was 2 Greffers, DD Warrior Lady, and Rhoda. And also running Cyber Dragon in the main deck, which is actually an interesting choice. I think it was mainly for the Machina lineup that he would deal with later. But in my opinion, I think 2 Greffer is the way to go, and I don't like 3. I think people using 3 may get a really bad situation where they'll dead hand, and you'll instantly regret that and have emotional damage. Of course, we have Dad. Dad is also my nickname in one of the Edison chats. They call me Dad for Game for some reason, and it's mainly because I usually pull off Dark Arm Dragon plus Bryonic Dragon and Ice Barrier, and that is just, you know, game winning or game ending. So there's that, and then we have the spells and traps. Now I'm running very light on my spells, so I'm just running my 3 staples, which are Brain Control, Heavy Storm, and Mystical Space Typhoon. Now we'll talk about this later, but I like gold rares, and I'm talking about the classic gold rares. The first iteration, I think this is Gold Series 1. So there's the bottomless trap holes, and I also have the brain controls for my gold series. I used to run a gold series Dad, and I'll explain that later in another video. But there's a reason why I'm running gold series, and it's possibly a myth too. So there's the staples. We also have our draw engines, which are Allure of Darkness and Black Whirlwind. Anytime I see Allure of Darkness, it's a good day in the first turn. Black Whirlwind, if I can get both in hand, which never happens in the same time, it's a great day. Actually, I really do not like seeing both Black Whirlwinds in hand. If I do, I better have like either an MST or a Heavy Storm, which is very unlikely with these 2 together. So I like to have just 1 Whirlwind, have an MST or a Heavy Storm, so that way I can clear the back row, because the back row is typically always going to be a Bottomless or a Dimensional Prison. So I really do not like seeing both of these unless my opponent's, you know, really wide open for attacks. Okay, moving on to traps. So we have Sullen Judgment, Trap Dust Shoot, Mirror Force, also Dan Green. Shoutouts to Dan Green with Yamayugi. We also have the Royal Oppression. I run 2. The reason why I run 2 is just because of the classic value turbo / hybrid engine way back in the day. I actually want to consider running Trap Stun again with the Royal Oppression. Although it's a very difficult choice to do, I don't know if I'm going to do it. If I do it, I would have to take out Trap Dust Shoot just because I like Trap Dust Shoot, but also at the same time, Trap Stun in some cases actually will help me get some of my stuff on board, and that's the problem that I had with this weekend, is that I would lose to like Bottomless Trap Hole a lot, or even Deep Prison, where I don't even have my control. So I'm actually considering Trap Stone again, and we'll see how that goes later. So I would consider some of the main common traps that you would see. For like, actually I would consider these the staples, and then the Royal Oppression is probably the extra bulk. I run Starlight Road. Starlight Road, the reason why I run Starlight Road is because when I deal with mirror matches, I hate seeing Icarus attack. Or sometimes I'll see Heavy Storm and I want to actually defend myself against that. But I'm actually considering taking this out for something else, and we'll talk about that after this deck profile. So we have that. And then we have the Triple Icarus Attack. These things, everyone knows you got to use Triple Icarus Attack for Blackwings. Then I run double D prison and double bottomless trap hole. These two are great. If I could run back in the day like 3 bottomless trap hole, I would. But I'm actually considering a different option, which is I might consider using dimensional prison or Book of Moon over Dimensional Prison. Might have a secondary build for Black Wings and see how I like that. And that's pretty much the trap lineup over here. Very generic, but I will definitely say, you know, running this deck is not just about the deck, it's about the player. A good swordsman is more important than a good sword. So there's the deck, and then I also have the extra deck and the side deck to talk about. So we have the Silver Wind, 2 Armor Masters. By the way, some of these cards, if you haven't noticed, these are very old cards, and a lot of these cards, like the first edition Values, the Unlimited Value, the Allure of Darkness, a lot of these OG cards, like the including some of the traps and the spells, I've been running since 2010, 2009. So these Armor Masters I actually pulled from way back in the day. That'll probably be another deck or a video to talk about with some of the stuff. But long story short, some of these cards, including this, I've had since the beginning. So the 2 Armor Masters, the reason why I'm running these 2 Armor Masters is because I run through Values like crazy and I need to get out Armor Masters. Most of the time I don't run Armor Master from Synchro. It can be bad to do that, but I do tend to do that every once in a while. But there is a tendency for me to actually have Armor Master from the Armed Wings. So that tends to happen quite often. I have the Dragons, which are Stardust, Black Rose, and Dark End Dragon. I don't synchro off into Dark End Dragon often unless I play against a fairy deck. I tend to synchro off into Stardust Dragon or into Thought Ruler Archfiend. And the reason why is because it's a kind of a coin toss, but the likely chance, if I see a Bottomless and it's already in the graveyard, there's a likely chance that there is a Dimensional Prison ready for me. So Stardust Dragon is the wrong choice. Therefore, you need to use Thought Ruler Archfiend. So that's some of the cards right there. So we also have Magical Android, just because that's the other level 5. Goyo Guardian. Goyo Guardian comes in every once in a while over Brianna just because I need to grab some of their grab some of their field or get some attrition going. I also use Colossal Fighter. This I don't use as often. I don't know why I don't use it as often as I used to. I think it just comes down to a lot of scenarios where I can't attack with it, or it gets rid the card gets rid of a lot sooner than I want. We also have the Hidden Arsenal cards, or as you might know, the Dual Terminal cards. So not Dual Terminal, but the Hidden Arsenal cards, if you know from back in the day. So I have Brio and Alley of Justice Catastor. I don't synchro off into level 5s as often as I used to anymore, unless I'm in a terrible situation where I need to actually have more field control or I have to have a higher attack monster. At the same time, I don't like using Alley of Justice Catastor unless I'm dealing with, you know, non-dark monsters. Brio is, in my opinion, the MVP next to Stardust Dragon and Thought Ruler Archfiend, and the reason why is because I tend to go off with Blizzard, with Shura, and then having Vayu and Sorako in hand, and then pushing for game, or sometimes Brio Dad, like I said before. So that's the extra deck over here, and let's see. So now that we're done with the extra deck, let's talk about the side deck. Oh yeah, we also have Chimera Tech Fortress. That's also in the extra deck, my bad. But that's kind of an obvious just because Machina. So let's move on to the extra deck. I mean let's move on to the side deck. All right, so every time you use Chimera Tech, you gotta have your Cyber Dragons. I run 2. I also have used Cyber Dragons when I need to go against E-Hero, and it's mainly because I have to outspeed them. Because I can't just have these 1-for-1 games, because if I keep having these 1-for-1s, I'm going to lose against E-Hero. So I tend to use Cyber Dragon along with DD Crow and Snowman Eater. So actually, Snowman Eater is an addition or a change from the original side deck I had from YCS LA. Every time I get into a mirror match against Black Wings, I have been getting pwned by Snowman Eater. So using Snowman Eater in the side, I would use it with Black Wings or E-Hero, and hopefully that will actually fix a lot of the problems that I have with my side. So another one, I like using Burial, and the reason why is because if I have a late game, I like using it with Vayu. That's the only reason why I use Burial. is so that way I can actually get some more speed going on. I think that actually came up in the Nationals match against a Frog deck where I just kept cycling through my values like crazy, and I sided in my Burial just in case. Of course, we have Limp or Light Imprisoning Mirror. I also use Skill Drain in conjunction with Light Imprisoning Mirror against Lightsworns and Fairies. They hate seeing these cards, not because of the Battle Recruiters, but Christia hates seeing this. I will use it quite often against Lightsworn just because it actually shuts down Lila and Raikou almost immediately. So if I don't see Limp, I'll see Skill Drain. And I also use this against Frogs. It kind of slows them down, but it also I may also lose in the favor, but it just depends on my luck. I also use Chain Disappearance. I stopped using Mask of Restrict, and the reason why is because a lot of the Frog players are ready to use Dust Tornado on Mask of Restrict. They're not going to try and use Dust Tornado on a set back row because they know that's, they're anticipating that Mask of Restrict is coming. So I instead changed it up and went with Chain Disappearance, and that does a lot against even Vayu. It does a lot against Frogs. So if I can actually, well, most people don't even summon Vayu unless they're crazy. But I would definitely say that using this against Frogs, it will shut them down for the day or for the match or the game. Excuse me. Many times I've used this and they would scoop. So Chain Disappearance is great against Treeborn Frog especially. All right, so Deck Devastation Virus. So the thing is that I am actually looking at switching my Starlight Road for one Deck Devastation Virus. I like using Deck Dev with Trap Dust Shoot if I can get that off, and it gets to the point that it's a win con. So I'm actually looking at using one Deck Dev in the main deck and seeing how I like that. And it seems like True Hero was using what I would call Dark Diva Hero or just Diva Hero, and not Diva Hero Beat. And what he got out of using Deck Dev, just that one Deck Dev, got him the match in top 8 against Amaryllis Burn, or Amaryllis Aggro Burn from Nick. And Nick was running, when he was in it, oh my God. When I watched that match, it was crazy just to see True Hero in early game Deck Dev against Amaryllis. First game, lost. Nick lost to Deck Dev. Third game, early Deck Dev. That was a blowout for Nick, and I felt sorry for Nick in that moment because those two are great players, and those two were playing their hearts out in that moment. But I'm definitely considering using Deck Dev in the main deck and just putting the Starlight Road in the side in case I need it for something else. But yeah, that's where I got the tip from. Cairo suggested this to me. He thinks that I should try running one Deck Dev, and I think that's going to be what I'm going to do next. And it may shut down Diva Hero. I think it, just at least getting some of the cards out of play may help. But also at the same time, nobody likes to see Diva as a Blackwing player, or no Blackwing player loves to see Diva. So I'm definitely considering running Deck Dev, taking out Bora, and then putting the Starlight Road back in the side. So that's pretty much that for the Blackwing deck. I somehow got into top 8 with it in the 64-man tournament. I went X3 and dropped out, I think round 5. Lost to Frogs, lost in a Blackwing mirror match, lost to Vayu Turbo, and I just had a very, very terrible matchup. And I don't even remember my third loss after that. But I would definitely say in the top 8 for my top 8 matches in the 64-man tournament, I lost to Chainburn, ironically enough, and I just did not know how to side. But now I know how to side against Chainburn, which is going to be great in the future. And the thing that I learned to use against Chainburn is definitely going to be Deck Devastation Virus. I want to say Cairo did that to Chainburn. Shout out to the Frog Slicer. He did that. He got that. He was running Chainburn against me in the top 8, and I just had nothing. I just could not play. He just went through his whole hand and just destroyed me just by inflicting burn on me. So I still have a lot of problems as a player when it comes to what I would call stage fright, or another equivalent is just having adrenaline pumping through your body the whole match. I hate that feeling. A lot of my casual matches, I tend to run very normal, very relaxed, having a lot of fun. But when it comes to like a lot of these competitive matches and tournaments, I tend to have a lot of stage fright issues. Don't know why, but I definitely get a lot of weird feelings in the stomach, if that makes any sense. But that's pretty much it for the deck. All right, guys, so that's pretty much the video. Again, I just want to thank everyone that I got to meet at the tournament. Everyone that I got to meet, some especially knew me from either way back in the day, or some people knew me from the really big Yu-Gi-Oh! Discord. Keegan's Discord has been very phenomenal and what they've been just trying to push. And I thank Keegan for what he's been doing with the Edison tourney, or the Edison format, and just pushing the envelope with all that. All the people that I got to do with the deck profiles, you guys have been awesome. And I really appreciate that you guys gave me the time to actually do your deck profiles on your decks. So if you guys have any questions, please leave them in the comment section down below. If you guys can, please do like the video and also subscribe to Asian with Cards. My name's David Lee. We will see you guys in the next video.